Hello and welcome back to the 100 Plays channel. We're back today. We've got the Premier League predictions today. So we're going to be going through how I think the Premier League is going to finish this season. Shout out before we get into this to Ashman for coming up with this template and sending it over to me. It's greatly appreciated. I'll leave a link up to him over here, and providing he does a predictions video soon and I remember to do it, I'll leave a link to his predictions video down below. We're going to get straight into it this time around because I know last year I waffled on quite a lot. So our relegated teams, we start off with Bournemouth. I don't think they've got enough about them to stay up. They did well in the Championship, but I can see them just falling short in the Premier League. We've got Southampton, who were on a horrendous run of form towards the end of the season. And I don't see them bouncing back. Something about them, I predicted them to go down last year, I think, or if not, I predicted them to be very, very close to going down. And this year, I think they're going to go down. I don't think they've improved their squad enough. And the third and final team relegated, I've got Leeds United. With them, they had a really good first season in the Premier League. Last year, it was a little bit more of a struggle for them. Then they've sold Calvin Phillips. I think he was a massive part of their team. I don't think they've adequately replaced him, in my opinion. So I can see them struggling and eventually going down. The teams that I can see just about surviving, I've got Nottingham Forest. I think with the signings they've made, provided, I think they do need a good start to the season and they need to get their team cohesion there as soon as possible. If they can, I make them just about surviving. The other team that I think will struggle massively is Everton. And there's something about them that I've never been that keen on them for a while in terms of thinking they've got a particularly good team. They just about scraped survival last year, and I think it's going to be more of the same for Everton this year. Next, we have the other promoted side, Fulham. Mitrovic, obviously in the Premier League before, hasn't quite done it, but 43 goals in the Championship last year. I reckon this year he's going to get at least 15. I know he hasn't done it previously in the Premier League, but this seems like a different Mitrovic that's coming back to the Premier League. So for me this year, he's going to go and get 15 goals. He's going to keep Fulham in the Premier League. If you need someone for your fantasy football, I would be looking to him. I don't know how much he costs because I don't really do fantasy football, but definitely someone to keep an eye on. Next up, we have Brentford. I can see them kind of having another season around this area where I think they've got enough about them to be safe. I think Ivan Toney, as long as he stays, will have an even better season this year. I think he got 12 goals last year. I can see him similar to Mitrovic making it about 15 goals this year. So I think Brentford will be safe. And I can see this is kind of where I think Brentford and above will be the ones that aren't really in the relegation battle at all. I think the others will be. Maybe Fulham won't be. So now moving up to 13th, and this is a bit of a controversial one. We have Leicester. Now, the reason I've put Leicester all the way down here, they've already sold Kasper Schmeichel. I think Jamie Vardy is starting to pick up a few more injuries, and he was always their main source of goals. The other reason I put them down here, there's a lot of rumours around Tielemans and James Maddison going. If they leave, I think Leicester could be in a lot of trouble, to the point that I think if one of them leaves, which I would expect at least one of them to go, they'll be 13th as I've predicted here. If both of them go, I could see them dropping down to be like between Everton and Forest. I think they could really struggle if Tielemans and Maddison go, as well as Schmeichel. In 12th, I've got Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're a team that they struggled a bit last season towards the end, but overall, I think they've got enough about them. I think they are just kind of a mid-table team. If they have a particularly good season, they might just push for that European Conference place. If they have a particularly bad season, they might just about survive. But I think their kind of position at the minute is just they're kind of mid-table, and that's what they are. So that's where I've got them. In 11th this year, I've gone with Crystal Palace. I don't remember where I had them last year. I think I had them a little bit lower, but Patrick Vieira, to be fair to him, had a phenomenal first season and better than I expected. I thought, if I'm being honest, I probably expected them to sack Vieira and then his replacement come in and bring them back away from the relegation zone. But no, Vieira seems like a phenomenal manager, and I would expect Palace to be breaking into that top 10. if he continues on the current trajectory that he's got, but not quite this season. The reason being, we've got Brighton in 10th. Last year, I predicted them just about surviving. 2 years in a row now, they've been really good defensively, and they're just struggling to score. Despite struggling to score, they did finish 9th last year. So I think they'll have another good season. Graham Potter seems to really know what he's doing with that team. So therefore, I think they've got enough about them to get into that top 10, just about above Crystal Palace. Next, we have West Ham in 9th. I think they had a really good year last year, getting all the way to Europa League final. The only reason I've got them 9th and not any higher is they are in the Conference League this year. And I think given that they lost in the final last year, they will definitely be wanting to try and go all the way in that Conference League. I know it's slightly lower than the Europa League, but I also think West Ham are definitely a team that can win that Conference League, and I think they might go a bit more at it, go after the Conference League, possibly even win it, but it will come at a slight sacrifice to their league season. But if they win it, they'll still be in the Europa League anyway, so it won't matter too much. In 8th, I've got Newcastle. I think they've been really smart with their spending so far, and I can see them benefiting from it. I think this year they might just about miss out on the European spots. I don't expect them to be missing out for very long. I think give it another year, they'll be definitely in the challenge for the top 6, and then another year or two after that, I can see them challenging for the Champions League as long as their ownership don't get bored, because I think that is a risk with some of these takeovers. In 7th place, just about getting the Europa Conference League, I have got Aston Villa. I think the signings that they made last year after Grealish left, Leon Bailey, I know technically they signed them before he left, but it was clear what they did. I think they've had a year to settle in. Ollie Watkins, I think, is a phenomenal striker. Danny Ings as well. I think that pairing, you're going to have one of them that's going to be scoring goals for you. And then you've got Coutinho behind them. You've got a solid defence, apart from Tyrone Mings. And Martinez in goal is a phenomenal goalkeeper. So I can see Villa getting that Europa Conference League spot. In 6th, I've got Tottenham Hotspur. And I've seen a lot of people having them like in the top 4. There's something about them that for some reason I'm just not keen on them. I think it's just growing up when I've known them as being bottle jobs. It's what Tottenham are. I'm sorry, but it's true. And I don't see that changing at the moment. In 5th place, I'll be honest, any other team, I'll show you 5th and 4th. We've got Arsenal and Manchester United. So United finishing in 4th. I'll be honest, I think we'll actually finish 5th, but I'm a United fan. I've got to have that little bit of extra ambition. We're going to get top 4. I believe in Eric Ten Hag. I think if we sign De Jong, which is obviously rumoured, then that makes a massive difference. I think we probably do get top 4 if we sign him, or if we sign another holding midfielder. It's definitely something that we need, because we cannot go all season with McTominay and Fred. I can't bear to watch that. In 3rd place, I've got Liverpool. I think purely because I think lack of squad depth will get to them this year. They've obviously sold Mane. Salah's another year older. And although, don't get me wrong, he's not been prone to injuries, but I think their midfield seems to be quite injury prone. And I don't think there's a lot of backup there. And there's just something, I think they've got this phenomenal first 11. And despite the fact that, yes, they've challenged for all these trophies the last few years, I still think that lack of squad depth, it's got to catch up to them eventually, in my opinion. I think this might be the year, and I'm only predicting them to finish 3rd. Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to completely fall apart. I think in the long run, they won't quite have as much as Chelsea, who have got to finish 2nd. I think with the signings they've made, and with Thomas Tuchel in charge, I could see them picking up an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup in the season as well. But I don't think they've quite got enough to win the league. But they'll have a good season, in my opinion. However, 1st place, as a lot of people are predicting, Manchester City. They've signed Erling Haaland. And if you sign Erling Haaland, for me, I think the fact that last year they won it with their best striker being Gabriel Jesus, who, don't get me wrong, isn't a bad striker, but he's not. Erling Haaland's going to take them to another level, and they're already a step above the rest of the league, which hurts as a United fan, but they just are. Kevin De Bruyne, Jack Grealish putting balls on a plate for Erling Haaland. That's going to be a scary prospect for everyone in the league. If I was to just give a few other predictions, so top goal scorer, I'm going to go with Erling Haaland, as you can kind of tell from what I was saying there. Most clean sheets, I'm going to say I expect Chelsea to actually get the most clean sheets. I think their defence, with Koulibaly being added to it as well, and the fact that they've got Thomas Tuchel in charge, I think that's a pretty good prediction to make. And then if I was to predict a team that I think could completely upset my rankings here, I think going up the table, I'd probably say Everton. I think they could have a really good season. I don't think they're going to, but I think there's definitely potential there. And going down, I think possibly Newcastle. They've been on a high since January. And obviously you can see I'm predicting them to finish 8th, so I'm not predicting them to have a bad season. But if there's a team out of that top 10 that I think they could actually end up having a bit of a shocker, I think it would be Newcastle if I had to pick one. Other than that, I don't think there's anyone that I'm particularly expecting to be shocked by. I think Mitrovic will have a really good season. I'm hoping United can get that top 4 with Ten Hag in charge. I think we've got a good chance. Let me know what you think of my predictions down below. Again, go and check out Ashman. Thank you very much for sending me the template. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. Please do hit subscribe. Go and check out some of my FM content if you're interested in that. And thank you very much for watching.